It was deep past midnight when the old bus whizzed to its last stop, abandoning its only passenger at the crumbling station. Nathan Price stepped off, boots pressing into gravel, his breath visible in the icy air. Around him stretched a forgotten town, shrouded in shadows. Windows were boarded, lampposts flickered weakly, and silence carried the weight of something unnatural. He had not intended to come here. The bus had detoured from the highway, its driver staring blankly ahead, never speaking. When Nathan realized the route was wrong, it was already too late. The bus slowed, hissing, and deposited him in this dead town whose name on the rusted sign was unreadable. The bus pulled away without looking back, and he was left alone. The air was thick with the smell of damp concrete and rot. Faded posters clung to walls, advertising festivals long forgotten. A once bustling diner stood with its doors chained shut. Windows cracked like veins. Farther down the road, a neon motel sign sputtered. Black, PNC wire, glowing faintly, though no power should have remained. He felt watched, though no figure moved. The station itself groaned as the wind slid between beams. Inside, rows of broken benches were coated with dust. A ticket booth sat shattered, glass smeared with something that could only be old blood. Nathan stepped carefully, each creak echoing too loudly, like the building itself breathed with him. A chill settled on his spine when he noticed the clocks. Every single one, whether on the wall, in the station, or hanging above the streets, was frozen at 3:15. Seconds' hands were poised mid-motion, suspended in a perpetual tick that would never come. He whispered into the emptiness, "Hello." His voice dissolved instantly, swallowed by the air, leaving no echo. From somewhere distant came a faint sound, like a child's laugh, brittle and hollow. He froze, gripping his coat tighter, eyes scanning the deserted street. Shadows seemed to stretch, bending unnaturally under the sickly light. His phone had no signal. The battery drained impossibly fast, the screen dimming before shutting off completely. He tried again, nothing. It was as though the town itself had devoured connection to the outside world. Then he saw them, at the far end of the street, by the corner of the motel. 3 figures stood still as statues. They were children, or what resembled children, pale, emaciated, with eyes black as voids, their heads tilted in perfect unison. Nathan's breath caught, heart pounding. He tried to speak, but the figures dissolved into the fog like smoke. A whisper rushed past his ear, his own name. He spun around. No one was there. A church bell tolled in the distance, though no church could be seen. With each resonant strike, the air grew heavy, pressing down on him, forcing his chest to tighten. His instinct screamed to run, but his legs felt nailed to the ground. Nathan's feet carried him toward the flickering sign, as if pulled by invisible strings. The motel loomed like a relic from the 1960s, paint peeling, doors hanging crookly from rusted hinges. The air smelled of mildew and something acrid, metallic. The buzzing neon word vacancy flared bright, then dimmed again, spasming like a dying heartbeat. He reached the lobby door and found it unlocked. A tarnished bell sat on the counter, its once shiny surface corroded to green. The wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing black mold. Dust-coated keys dangled from hooks behind the desk, some missing, leaving empty gaps as though stolen by unseen hands. He almost turned back, but the bell rang on its own, sharp and jarring, though he hadn't touched it. The sound echoed unnaturally long, vibrating through his bones. Then a register book flipped open, pages fluttering violently before stopping at an empty line. The pen beside it rolled forward. His name appeared, written in jagged script, Nathan Price. He staggered back, slamming into a chair that wasn't there before. It sat in the middle of the lobby, upholstery shredded, stuffing spilling out. He scanned the desk again behind the counter. A door creaked open. The smell of decay thickened. Inside, the manager's office was a shrine of madness. Polaroids covered the walls. Guests who had once stayed here. Their faces were slashed out with knives, leaving gouges in the plaster. At the desk lay a stack of motel receipts, all dated for the same night, March 15th, every year, repeating endless. The sound of footsteps echoed above. He froze. Someone or something moved upstairs. Slow, dragging steps. A door slammed, then silence. Against his better judgment, Nathan climbed a staircase. Each step groaned under his weight. At the top, the hallway stretched impossibly long, lined with dozens of doors, far more than the motel could hold from outside. The corridor tilted, angles wrong, bending in directions that made no sense. He passed one door with light seeping out from the crack beneath. A voice whispered, muffled but urgent, "Don't come in." His hand trembled on the knob. The door shook violently once, then stilled. He stepped away, heart hammering. Another door swung open ahead of him. He saw a room inside number 6. It looked untouched. Bed made neatly, curtains drawn. On the bed sat a suitcase. His suitcase, though he hadn't brought one. Its zipper moved, inching open. Something inside shifted. He stepped forward, against his will, watching his pale fingers emerged, clawing at the edges. The air grew dense, suffocating. Whispers layered on whispers surrounded him, pressing into his skull. He turned to run, but found the hallway endless. Doors stretched into blackness. The exit behind him was gone. He tripped, falling hard. When he looked up, the 3 children from the street stood only feet away. Nathan stumbled back into the street, lungs burning, desperate for air. The motel door slammed behind him, as if sealing. Something inside or locking him out for good. The night air was colder, fog rolling in heavier. The sound of a bell rang again, closer this time, drawing him toward the silhouette of a crumbling church at the far end of the street. Its steeple leaned precariously, cross-bent at an angle, as though crushed by unseen hands. The great wooden doors were ajar, one dangling from rusted hinges. He hesitated, but the bell tolled once more, vibrating through his skull, until his knees bowed. Compelled, he stepped inside. The church interior was gutted. Pews were overturned. Hymnals rotted to pulp. Stained glass windows were shattered, their jagged edges casting warped colors across the warped floorboards. The altar was blackened, scorched as if by fire. Yet a single candle burned brightly at its center, flame unmoving despite the draft. Nathan approached slowly. The silence here was oppressive, more suffocating than outside. Dust swirled in the air, thick as smoke. Then he heard the whispers. 1,000 voices murmured prayers in unison, though the church appeared empty. Their words twisted, foreign, but heavy with anguish. As he neared the altar, he noticed carvings in the wood, symbols that pulsed faintly, glowing red like embers. His breath caught when he realized they weren't carved. They were burned into the wood by hands not human. The candlelight fled, and the shadows of the pews lengthened, moving though nothing else did. He looked up at the crucifix. The figure of Christ was gone, leaving only nails and splintered wood. In its place, something else had been affixed, a grotesque effigy of bone and wire. Its mouth stretched open in eternal scream. Suddenly, the pews groaned. Figures sat within them, materializing from shadow. Parishioners, heads bowed, skin gray and peeling. Their mouths moved silently, jaws unhinging wider with each breath. One by one, their heads lifted to reveal hollow sockets where eyes should be. Nathan staggered back, but the doors behind him slammed shut. The bell tolled again from the rafters, though no bell hung there. The sound drove the parishioners to rise. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, marionettes of some greater force. He ran toward a side door, shoving it open into the sacristy. The smell of decay hit him like a wall. Inside, coffins were stacked like firewood, lids nailed shut. As he backed away, one coffin split open from the inside. A skeletal hand clawed out, then another, dragging itself free. The whispers grew louder, chanting his name now. Nathan, Nathan. He pressed his hands over his ears, but the sound burrowed inside his skull. The candle at the altar erupted into flame, consuming the effigy. Fire spread unnaturally fast, racing along walls and pews. Yet the parishioners remained, chanting unburned. The streets twisted, looping back on themselves. Nathan ran blindly, but every turn led him deeper into the nightmare town. At last, he stumbled upon a towering iron gate. Rust devoured its bars, but above them, a sign still clung. Hallow Pines Asylum. The gates groaned open without touch. Beyond lay the asylum, a hulking stone monolith. Windows shattered, ivy strangling its walls. The wind howled through broken glass, carrying faint screams. Nathan's gut told him to flee, yet his body disobeyed. He stepped inside. The lobby smelled of antiseptic clung gone sour. Wheelchairs rusted in corners, papers scattered across the floor. Patient files fluttered, their pages yellowed, names blacked out. A receptionist's desk slumped under the weight of dust and rot. On the wall behind it, photographs of doctors stared, their faces scratched away. A corridor stretched ahead, lined with doors bearing rusted locks. As Nathan passed, hands shot from the slits, skeletal fingers clawing for him. He recoiled, but the doors rattled, metal bending outward as if something far stronger pressed from within. A light flickered at the far end. He followed, trembling. The corridor opened into a treatment room, walls padded but torn open. Stuffing spilled like entrails. An overturned gurney lay in the center. Straps hung loose, stained with rust and darker things. The lights swung wildly. Illuminating words scrawled across the walls in charcoal. They never left. A scream echoed, sharp and piercing. Nathan spun, down another hall. A figure darted thin, jerking movements, hair matted, limbs too long. It vanished around a corner. Against his better judgment, Nathan followed. He entered the ward. Rows of iron-framed beds stood neatly, each holding a figure beneath rotting sheets. As he crept closer, the figure sat up beneath him, faces wrapped in gauze, heads cocking to listen. One tore its bandages free, revealing a mouth sewn shut, skin stretched taut. They began to convulse violently, beds rattling across the floor. The overhead lights shattered, plunging him into darkness. Red emergency lights blinked on, bathing everything in a hellish glow. At the far end of the ward, a doctor appeared coat bloody, mask cracked. His eyes glowed faintly beneath. He raised a surgical saw, tilting his head unnaturally. The patients screamed without sound, rushing from their beds, limbs breaking as they crawled toward Nathan. Their movements were insect-like, jointed in impossible directions. He ran, slipping on blood-slicked tiles, but the corridor twisted again, trapping him. The doctor's saw screeched against the wall as he approached slowly. Nathan pounded on locked doors, desperate. One swung open suddenly, pulling him inside. He collapsed, panting. It was another patient room, smaller, walls scarred by fingernails. Nathan fled the asylum, stumbling into the mist-soaked streets. His chest ached, throat raw from screaming. The air felt heavier now, charged with static, as if the entire town vibrated with an unseen pulse. He ran until his legs gave out, collapsing before a looming structure of cracked glass and concrete. Its faded letters read, St. Dimphna Memorial Hospital. The sliding doors, though shattered, hissed open for him. The lobby was vast, ceilings high, but the air smelled of copper and mildew. Wheelchairs stood abandoned, ivy poles rusted. A hospital directory hung crooked, but all its floors listed the same word, morgue. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, humming like insects. He stepped over a gurney, straps dangling, and entered the main hallway. The walls were lined with faded murals of smiling doctors and children, their faces scratched out, leaving gouged hollows. Somewhere deeper in the building, A monitor beeped steadily. Nathan followed the sound. He entered a room where machines whirred though unplugged. On the bed lay a patient, shrouded in sheets. The heart monitor spiked as he approached. The sheet shifted, rising with breath. He reached out. The figure sat up violently. The sheet slipped to reveal nothing inside. No body, only air. The monitor flatlined. A crash echoed in the hall. He spun, but the corridor behind him stretched impossibly long. Wheelchairs rolled on their own, doors opening and slamming shut. Shadows darted across the walls, though nothing cast them. He forced himself forward, deeper, until he found the elevator. Its doors hung open. Inside, the lights glowed sickly yellow. With no other choice, he stepped in. The doors sealed shut. The descent lasted too long. The elevator groaned, rattling, lights flickering. Numbers above the door spun wildly, faster and faster, until they blurred into symbols he couldn't read. Finally, it stopped. The doors opened onto the basement. The morgue, rows of drawers lined the walls. Metal doors rusted, some hanging open. Tacks dangled from skeletal feet jutting out. Nathan's stomach lurched. The air was freezing, breath fogging. A single table stood in the center, a body covered in a sheet. His own name was on the tag tied to its toe. He staggered back, slamming into a drawer. It flew open. A corpse fell forward, its mouth sewn shut, eyes wide and alive. It grasped at him. Jaw-tearing muffled screams burst forth. Nathan shoved it off and bolted, but the other drawers began to rattle, one by one, slamming open. Dozens of corpses crawled out, broken, twisted, skin hanging in strips. Their mouths split open impossibly wide as they shrieked his name. He ran toward the stairwell, corpses chasing, their nails scraping metal. He burst into the stairwell only to find it spiraled downward endlessly. Stairs vanishing into darkness. Upward was gone. The only path was down. Nathan's scream still echoed in the blackness when his eyes snapped open. He was no longer in the hospital. He was standing once more at the bus station where it had all begun. The clocks on the wall still froze at 3:15. The air carried the same choking silence. For a moment, he thought it had been a dream, but his clothes were torn, spattered with dried blood. His hands shook violently. He stumbled outside the same empty streets, the same fog rolling in thick waves. The motel sign flickered faintly. The church loomed in silhouette, and the asylum spire clawed the sky. It had all circled back. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Windows shattered down the block, glass raining like ice. From the fog emerged shadows, dozens, then hundreds, all converging. Figures of the townsfolk children with hollow eyes, parishioners without faces, patients bound in gauze. Corpses from the morgue shambled closer, whispering his name in unison. He backed toward the bus stop, desperation clawing his chest. And there it was, the bus. Headlights glowed dim in the mist. The driver sat rigid, face hidden by shadow. The doors creaked open with a hiss, inviting. Nathan bolted inside. The door slammed shut behind him. The bus lurched forward, pulling away from the cursed town. Relief surged. He was leaving. He was escaping. But then he saw the passengers. Every seat was filled. Rotting corpses stared at him, their mouths open, yet whispers bled from them. Their eyes tracked him, every head turning as one. His legs faltered, stumbling toward the back. In the final seat sat himself, another Nathan, pale, lifeless, eyes open and glassy. His dark-Aldina's lips moved faintly, whispering, "There is no leaving." The bus accelerated violently. Through the cracked windows, the town blurred past, stretching, twisting. The streets spiraled, repeating endlessly: motel, church, asylum, hospital again and again. Faster each time, the passengers rose from their seats, surrounding him. Their mouths tore open, stitches snapping, screams filling the air like knives. He clawed at the windows, pounding, begging to be let out. The driver finally turned his head. His face was a skull, empty sockets burning red. He spoke with 1,000 voices. Welcome home. The bus plunged into darkness. The screams cut off. Silence consumed everything. When Nathan opened his eyes, he was standing once again at the bus stop. Alone, the clocks still read 3:15. The fog pressed close, and the bus was gone.